Box of the Bills, number 2. It's Wilson to Wilson. Why is it Wilson to Wilson? Well, let's find out. Welcome back to the Golf Shop. Jim McClear here, and this is where we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, and golf club fittings, all so your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, and join us on Mondays for a live stream at 17:30 or 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's about the same stuff, only it's live. You can ask me questions one-on-one with people from around the world. You'll enjoy it. So join us. It's on YouTube, Facebook, and now X if you want to go there. Alrighty, so Wilson to Wilson, what are we doing? We are taking this club. And we're going to turn them into these clubs. Alright, so what do we have? We have Wilson Dynapowers. They're circa 1971. 1971, that was my very first car that I bought that I drove out of a cornfield. Looks a lot like this. Yep, Pontiac Grand Prix. Thing was a boat, and it was awesome. At least back in the day when I was 16 years old. Anyway, so a gentleman dropped off these Wilson sets and said he didn't want them anymore. Do whatever you want with them. So I am. So if you want to learn more about what we're going to do with them, stay towards the end. Now, these things are in pretty rough shape, right? I mean, they've been around since 1971. So 81, 91, 2001, 2011, 2021, and a couple more. So these things are at least 50 years old, okay? Now, when we look at them, I think, wow, they really look cool. They look very original, and they do look very original. However, they're not. The shafts have been replaced with True Temper Dynamic Gold S300s. Now, they're probably pretty close to S300s, but I think they were given a different name, something like Ultra Light or Super Light or something along that lines, and they had a clear band around them. These are more modern, and when you look at the ferrules go red, clear, red, when in the day they went clear, red, clear, just the opposite, okay? So that's kind of what gives it away, but for the untrained eye, it looks really, really good. And they also have some nice lambkin grips that have the spiral or the wrap on them, and they're actually in really good shape. So what are we going to do? We are just going to refurbish the heads. And what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to take down the chrome and re-chrome them because these are just collector's pieces at this particular time, so they might mean something to somebody, and that's what we're going to kind of do with it. So, what do we got to do? Well, let's go to the bench, and I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. Alright, what we got to do to get started here is we got to set ourselves up. So I'm using my wavy wheel, which is the 3M nylon, and we're getting our ventilation set up, and we want to take right after our club. Now what we're doing is we're laying into our club, and we're just seeing what kind of dirt, rust, and stuff that we can take off. Keep in mind that we're just trying to clean this right now. That's all we're trying to do. And since that was not a very good angle, we're going to try it from a different angle here and show you that we go for the sole. I'm trying to make sure that the sole and all the dirt has been cleaned out. We're taking off all the basically rust boogers and things that you get caught up in a 50-year-old club. And we're trying to take it off of the club with the wavy wheel. Now this is nothing more to do than to make a satiny type finish, take off the really hard rust, and you see how nasty that thing is right there on the bottom. And that's all we're going to do, is because the creases are running in the direction of the wheel right now, so it can run in there and get all that stuff out. Once I'm sure of it, then we cross hatch it, which is meaning taking the head down. Now you can see it's all been removed. Now let's take all the extra goo off of the golf club, and work on the heel. And then we're going to touch the face. Normally I wouldn't do that, but since these aren't going anywhere, why not, right? Let's get the rest of that rust and all those other works off of there, and let's have a little bit of fun making a golf club that's clean. Right now, fortunately, I didn't have to do that with too many of these. It was mostly from about the 7, 8, 9 pitch, where you would suspect the short game was being used quite a bit. And after each piece of work, you always want to do it a little bit more. Now, here's where the rubber is going to meet the road as far as making things shiny. Using the jet, a sisal wheel, and some black rouge, we are going to lean into this golf club. And we're going to use the 3-iron since it wasn't real bad to get started, just to see what kind of improvements I can make. Now, I've put the rouge on there, and I am leaning into this golf club pretty hard. What I'm trying to do is I'm actually trying to move a little bit of metal around and dull some of the ridges that are from the hitting in order to make it a little bit more shiny. Now, we're going to go all over the sole. We're going to cross hatch on here. I'm going to go along the back side of the body, and we're going to try and get some of the hosel if I can do that. Now, where's all the chrome on this? Well, it's on the back side, it's on the sole, it's on the face and the tip and the heel. So watch this here real quick. I'm going to lean into it, and then all of a sudden that muscle's going to get caught right there. Boink. And it's not that it caught. What it was is it slid off the muscle into the fin. And the fin was always a neat place to get cleaned up and smoothed it out. Now, if you see this right here where we're going into the hosel, and all I'm doing is I'm trying to smooth it out, make it a little bit more shiny, and move a little bit of metal. And that's what we do when we're doing bore throughs on shiny metal, is to take those sanding marks off, and this is what this wheel does, and that's the job of this particular club. So you lean into it, and this thing is so heavy you can lean into it. Now, you want to be careful when you go to do this, because although it's polished, you can create a truckload of heat. And so if you're going to be doing a lot of these and doing a lot in a row, you might want to really consider gloves, particularly if you're going to have to work on the project quite a bit, right? Now, what all I'm doing is I'm trying to smooth out the rough edges, bring the shine back to it, take out, some of the imperfections that were there from maybe bag wear, where the clubs are clanging around, that kind of thing, and trying to make it just so I can get it to look like it would look pretty decent in the bag, right? That's where we want to go. Now, the final step of this is the glands Wtch, which is what you're seeing me apply to an unstitched buffing wheel. This is a 1200 grit polish. This is where we go from just the polishing of it and bringing the shine to actually adding that next level of depth. And the next level of depth, it's where it will reflect the sunlight, just make it look really good. This is like the final polish on your car. And again, we're going to lean into this one too, because although albeit it's 1200, it certainly can add to the gloss of the chrome, right? And it will maybe fill in some scratches, or even take some of the scratches off. So again, we're going to want to go back and forth to do the cross hatching, so it's a 90-degree kind of thing, and go up and down, and that way you don't create a grain. You make a nice even flat surface when you go to do this. Now here we're doing the hosel area, and just because we want to knock off a little bit more. And the cool part about it is, since the hosels or the ferrules were done very well, we're just doing a real quick cleanup on them in order to get them shiny. And then last bit, we can never forget the face of the club. That toe area on the face when you put it at address, extraordinarily important when you want to do that. All right, the last bit here, and we are moving fast. You've done all this work to it. You've got it all nice and cleaned up. So now we got to do some paint fill. The paint fill, this is one I haven't done in a while, and it is a depreciable skill to be sure. Now everybody asks, what is it I use? Well, I tend to use what is called pinstriping paint for a car. I believe it's One Fast Now. And what it is, it's a quick dryer kind of paint. It's automotive paint, in order to use it. So there's several colors and you can mix them to get your certain color. Now, pro tip here is you do not need to dip it into the can. You've shook it up, you can use it and just use the lid. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a couple of different methods for paint filling. Number one is what I like calling the glob method. And you basically just, what you're doing here is you're trying to fill in the entire number or the letter so that's filled all the way to the top, because the idea here is when you wipe it off, you're going to actually get into these letterings and these numbers, and you want to leave a really nice depth of paint in there. All right, and that's what we're doing here. Now, this one I'm trying to get around, but I get pretty sloppy. It'll get better here in a moment after a couple of heads worth of practice. But the idea again is you're just taking the paint and you're filling the groove that was created for the number or the letter, and you're filling it all the way to the top, because when you get ready to wipe it off, you're really going to, get into, you have that potential of getting into that groove. All right, so I've been doing it a while. Here comes the 3. I'm getting a little more artistic because the 3 has kind of a special font in its lettering with the, the bulbs at the end. And now I'm starting to, check me out. Getting, a little bit more precise so that I don't have as much paint to wipe off. Now, I'm not going to show you all of it because there's red and all that other stuff. And this is what happens. So I've gone through the entire set, and now the paint's really, really starting to dry. And you're seeing it's not coming off as easily as one might perceive. And that's not a bad thing. If you haven't done this and you don't want to have to keep going back and painting it over and over and over again, you're like, oh, Jim, I just took it all out. No, I didn't. It's the reflection of the light. All right, now I'm just showing you again. This is where it's really, really dry, and it takes a while. So now what happens when it gets dry, if you let this set like overnight or something along that lines, you're going to need acetone. Now, right where I'm at, this thing is half cured, half not cured, and it's actually going to wipe off pretty easy. And as you can see, it's just a real quick, we'll call it a smear, and voila, there you are. And that's pretty much it. And all we're doing is we're cleaning it up and making sure any of the, we'll call it like overspray, is being taken care of. And you see what I've done right there? There we go. And you just take care of it just like that. So let's move on. Pitch and wedge. That's a pretty tall order, but the taller end, obviously, like most irons, were not used a whole lot, but the bottoms were. And whatever this guy was golfing on, man, oh man, it looked like he was golfing through sand a lot. And because there's a lot of scratching on the bottom. Now, chrome is very tough, but it's not that tough, right? And it started to peel on a couple, and what we did was we polished it so that it would blend with the shininess into the chrome, and that's what we did for that one. And as you could tell, once we got all the surface rust, and thankfully that's all it was a bunch of surface rust that got through the cracks of the chrome, all right? And then we polished it with the sisal wheel, and then finished it off with the Wtch wheel. It really came out pretty good. They're not perfect by any shape of the imagination, but they're 50 plus years old. And they're not going to be a box set. It's just something for somebody. If somebody has a really big memory, then that's what we want it to be for them, right? Now I polished up the ferrules, we waxed up the shafts, and then we have the grips that are just, we cleaned them up a little bit. And now as far as painting goes, there's several methods of painting, right? You can take the time and scribe into each one of them and reduce the mess. That's really, really good. I don't have a steady enough hand for that anymore, so it's glob it on, wipe it off. And besides, even with those folks that are scribing in there, they're still doing a quick wipe just to make sure it didn't get outside the lines. For me, this one works the best. Now, what you saw was I started at one end, worked all the way to the other, then came back and started wiping it off, because the paint that I use is a pinstriping paint that is actually fast dry. And you can wipe it off, and you saw how I smudged it, and I could have done it all the way down and then come back around with acetone and wiped it down and been all clear. But what was happening was that the paint was drying, and I was able just to take it off with the acetone, and voila, Bob's your uncle, and we're done. Okay, so that's what it takes. It's It's more about having the right tools and the right technique. Now, can you do it with a Dremel tool? Yeah. Get the right pieces for a Dremel tool, and it's just going to take you forever, but you can do that. Can you do it by hand? Maybe. You might get some bits that go on, sanding bits or polishing bits that go on a drill, and you could do it, and you could do it by hand, and that might speed things up. That's always a possibility. But those are things, you know, the tools that are available for you and the time that you have to put that stuff together. Alrighty, so what are we going to do with these things? Well, they're right-handed, so I've got zero use for these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them away, right? I'm just going to give them away to somebody who has as a young man that just wants to think about getting started in golf. Somebody might have a good story behind why they would need a set of 50-year-old Dino powers, whether their dad played them or something along that lines. So we're going to, you guys send me an email. It's clubmaker@mcgolf.net or mcgolfshop@roadrunner.com. It'll be down here and it'll be in the show notes. And we're going to take about a month. Okay, we're going to take about a month and we're going to take a look and we're just going to pick whatever we think is the best one and we're going to send them to you. Now, the only thing I ask is I'm going to box them up. We're going to make them look real nice, but I need you to pay the shipping. Okay. So for a brand new set of 50-year-old clubs, 2 through the pitch are yours for the price of shipping. And so don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know about your story and let your scores go low.